Hi, I'm Liv, and for the last year I've been working on and off on an absolutely massive Sherlock Holmes analysis. That's gonna eventually go up on my other channel. Eventually. What's important for this one is that I wanted to check out a few Sherlock Holmes video games. The plan was to make one huge video with all the ones I selected, but then halfway through I realized, oh, this is gonna be way too huge. Like, lowballing over 10 hours huge. So here we are. I'm uploading each game separately. Maybe lumping two together if one of them is way too short. And then when I'm done with everything, I'll make like the super compilation. We're starting with Frogwares. You know, those guys. They've been releasing mostly Sherlock Holmes games for the past 20 years, so I thought it would be a great place to start my Holmes marathon. Just one short little dictionary, I suppose, for those who aren't super familiar with the stories, the books, everything. When I mention canon, they're the original stories written by Conan Doyle, as opposed to pastiches, which are stories written by other authors. The Baker Street Irregulars, for the purposes of this series, are the street urchins that Holmes employs. In real life, they're a club of exclusive Sherlock Holmes fanatics, but, that's not important right now. Lastly, some might not know that Sherlock has a brother, Mycroft. He's often a source of information in this game, so when I mention Mycroft, remember that it's Big Brother. I think those are the essential basics, so let's get right into Frogwares' catalog. So, fun fact, this was actually the first point-and-click game I've ever played in my life. I couldn't solve anything, but hey, 6-year-old me was having the time of my life walking around this first room with the sarcophagi. It's also the first Sherlock Holmes game by Frogwares. Not fun fact, this game is hell to make run. It's free for a reason. It's not even the quick and easy hook the game to the DX window live support. The game actually comes with DX window in the game files, from 2002 that is. So you have to do a complicated DX window transplant surgery before even launching the Mystery of the Mummy. But okay, the transplant was a success. Let's see what Frogwares' first Sherlock Holmes game is all about.
Dear Sherlock Holmes, thank you so much for your interest in this affair. Finally, I've found some peace after knowing that the matter of the disappearance of my father, Lord Montgarth, 6 months ago, is now being investigated by you, my saviour. I know that you will find the truth, and you will tell me exactly what happened to my father. Yours sincerely, your devoted future cousin, Elizabeth Montgarth. P.S. Please, I beg you to keep this business a secret. I really don't want your dear cousin Andrew, whom I'm going to marry very soon, to find out about it.
It is very fortunate that Watson is away. I'll be able to make inquiry and keep it secret as my cousin wished. Mr. Sherlock Holmes, I suppose. Here is a letter for you from your cousin, Elizabeth Montcalf. Thank you very much. Good luck, Mr. Holmes. So it is the manor of Lord Montcalf. It seems no one is at home. I'll try to find evidence proving his death and report them to my cousin Elizabeth.
Man, no subtitles? Okay. Also this thing about, oh, it's good that Watson's away, then I can keep this case a secret. What? Like, just what? Did you just forget Watson is the utmost trustworthiness? But okay, fine. Our cousin wants us to... Wait, what was it? Investigate her father's disappearance. Right. And now we reach technical problem number 2. The camera. It doesn't move when you inch the mouse closer to the edges, but then when it's on the edge, it's whee! I'm sorry, but half the gameplay is me trying to fix the camera so I can look at what I'm doing, and I know that this looks horrendous, but it's the authentic game experience. And don't even get me started on when the mouse and the in-game cursor desync, so I'd have to spin around or shake to fix it again. This game is an absolute nightmare. But still, I persevered. Here in the lobby, we get a puzzle where we have to input the years of the mummies that are on display on this panel. It's just a little annoying because I didn't know if it was the beginning year or the end year of the dynasty, and then I got it wrong and the thing reset and I had to input all the numbers all over again, but not too bad. I was gonna comment on the graphics, but then I realized that they're not too bad, but nothing to write home about either, and my admiration was just a nostalgia speaking. As a kid, I had an insane hyperfixation with ancient Egypt, so I had a blast just walking up and down this room. Things were much simpler. Anyways, back to the matter at hand. I really couldn't care less about the story. You probably noticed it by my lack of commenting on it, but yeah, I can barely remember what this one's about. The Sherlock Holmes formula always contains a very concrete issue that regular detectives can't crack, or a problem that would have international terrible consequences if it went out. And this very open-ended, "ooh, my father disappeared" problem is just not cutting it. But, well, I owe it to my younger self, so let's continue. While exploring the newly unlocked rooms, something else starts bothering me. Who is this person I'm playing as? I know that he says his name is Sherlock Holmes, but...
Nice statue.
I know that writing Holmes is difficult, he's a very complex and mysterious character, but man, how can you mess up this badly? I'm gonna give Frogwares the benefit of the doubt and assume that their Holmes is based off of a shitty movie adaptation and not of the books. But still, I just kinda wanna slap this guy. Ooh, look! A blue sarcophagus! Have never seen something like that before. Ah yes, who doesn't love the priceless game mechanic? Look directly at your feet to grab the thing you wouldn't even see otherwise. I think the puzzles in this game would be okay if, like, half my brain wasn't occupied at any given moment with taming the wild camera. Of course, there's a little bit of the good old, I could use this item to solve this puzzle, but main character doesn't wanna. Also in these locations, after the nostalgic one, I realized that Frogwares is really bad at atmosphere. I mean, they tried, I suppose, but it's giving, this is a shoebox we decorated and want you to pretend it's a manor. There's nothing truly interesting to look at, no attention to details, and those things are pretty important to me, so snark me. Ah yes, an absolute classic. Click on the exact pixel we want you to click, or else. So here we find ourselves in a bit of a predicament. I can't pick up the Anubis statue to save my life. And I need it to save my life. I clicked every square inch of this alcove from multiple angles, quitting out and loading the save, and the option just doesn't appear. Checking the Steam discussions, 2 other people had the same issue and never got any answers. So yeah, I guess it's literally impossible for me to finish the mystery of the mummy. I'm like devastated. I could try a safe transplant, yeah, but we're only halfway through. It's been 2.5 hours of me wrestling with the camera. No thank you. But you're most welcome to try, free of charge. So this is another buggy mess, but this time it's not free. So the gameplay loop is do everything you can think of, get stuck, check the walkthrough, find out that you did everything right and are stuck for unknown reasons, download a save file that's after the stuck section, repeat. But this time the story is interesting enough and the game is playable enough that I actually went through the effort of the whole save file transplant. But anyways, let's get into the problem at hand.
Dear Mr. Holmes, please let me thank you one more time for your help in solving the case of the Turkish medallion. I'm sure that if the story could go public, the whole country would be as grateful as I am to you. As you may have surmised, I have a very urgent and confidential matter which requires your immediate assistance. You probably are aware that we are going to celebrate the birthday of a very important person, a member of the government. I can't mention their name in this letter for obvious reasons. The most famous and accomplished artists were selected and invited to perform. We are confident about their reputations. However, we have concerns about one performer in particular, a young Italian diva, Gallia, as there are certain rumours circulating about her. She has also provoked great acclaim in every European capital where she has appeared. We want to include her in this gala event, but have reservations about her reputation. She is, as fortune would have it, in London for another engagement. Sir Bromsby has invited her to perform during a reception to commemorate the return of his daughter to England. Due to reasons of politics and security, I can't attend the reception myself. Apart from yourself, I do not know anyone else I would be able to complete a mission of such importance. Together with this letter, I am sending 2 invitations, as I assumed your eminent colleague, Dr. Watson, would be accompanying you. A cab will arrive at 221B Baker Street at 8 p.m. to take you to Sherringford Hall. Even though I know that the prospect of attending a private concert given by perhaps the best voice in Europe is very attractive for a music lover like yourself, please allow nothing to distract you from this important mission. Yours sincerely, Lord Cavendish Smith.
How can we refuse a mission of such importance? Appearances to the contrary, I believe that the future of the nation can depend on our presence. Are you with me?
If the future of the nation depends upon our presence, Holmes, then you can count on me.
Okay, TLDR, government wants to know more about this Italian singer, so off we go to investigate. At the party, Holmes does his usual show-off show. The host doesn't care about women, is lowborn, a cutthroat businessman, was in the military, and there's gonna be an important announcement today at the party. But then...
I hear applause. Sir Bromsby is coming.
Ladies and gentlemen, let me thank you all for attending this special reception. In fact, this moment is a turning point for many people.
Quick! Tell Miss Lambert not to allow anyone to leave and to send a man for the police immediately.
Well, lucky we're here to help. Now, while the storytelling did get better, and this Holmes seems more in character with the OG one, unfortunately the graphics are still giving this is a shoebox, but please just believe that this is a manor. This house in particular, with the bright yellow walls, looks like something straight out of a Disney Princess CD-ROM game. Anyways, let's start our investigation. On the floor here, we grab... hello? Oh, okay, we have to click to read it. Holmes comments on the handwriting, but the paper just disappears. Okay.
Good day. My name is Sherlock Holmes. Would you mind if I asked several questions?
If it helps you.
Wow, this camera work is it's just too beautiful. This isn't a one-off thing either. Several times throughout the game, when we're talking to someone, they're framed in these unconventional angles. Entering this door to the right, we reach the dining room. I don't know why it's set up like the guests are supposedly gonna eat on that bizarre H-shaped table. Maybe to help with the serving? We talk to Herman Grimble, a business associate and friend to Mr. Brownsby, and this is the deceased's daughter, Lavinia. Honestly, it's the first time in these old games where I see someone who's described as a beauty actually stand out as beautiful. Her model seems to be based on Liv Tyler as Arwen. Anyways, we ask Grimble what sort of man Brownsby was. Strong character, excessive, unwielding. Okay, a dick then. But apparently he didn't have any particular enemies. There were the jealous ones that came with the territory of being an extremely successful businessman, but they weren't any more vicious than with any other businessman. Miss Lavinia should inherit the estate, and Grimble doesn't seem the least bit worried about the state of the business he holds shares in, and which the CEO, so to speak, just died. We've got to know more. The will was drawn by Bromsby's attorney and friend, Horace Fowlett. Put a pin on that. We then turn to Miss Lavinia, and Holmes kisses her hand, which is really weird because he never ever does that, but hey. She's extremely distressed, and this guy comes forward to vouch for her innocence. He's clearly smitten though, so let's not take what he says at absolute face value. We ask what's his reason for being here, and he says that he met Colonel so-and-so 3 days ago, and he brought him along. Too many suspicious people in one room. I need to clear my head. We go back to the ballroom and talk to the Colonel, who's still at the bar. First, we notice that the bar is diagonally opposite to the door Lavinia came out of, so there's just no way that guy saw anything other than a little bit of her side profile, maybe. Another thing is, the Colonel's sight is absolutely horrible, but his hearing is still good. Weird for a soldier, but fine. He tells us that he's sure the shot was fired from a small whatever pistol. Okay, thank you, mister. Next, we talk to this man sweeping the floor, and he tells us about the staff, and that Bromsby had hired a few extra people to help with the party. Oh, and also that Bromsby was a dick, he does second that. We then go through this door to the left and notice that the knob is twisted down, suggesting that someone just used it. Also, yeah, Sherlock Holmes is always described as tall and lanky, but I think someone messed up the models. Here, we take the middle door and this door to the right. Yeah, I'm sure by the end of this we won't feel as lost in this manner. We reach the smoking room, and here there's a kind of annoying mechanic. To go to those classic zoomed-in point-and-click screens, we have to use the magnifying glass. I think it would make much more sense for us to zoom in and then use the magnifying glass with something, but the devs clearly disagree. Anyways, in the ashtray we find this flaky white ash that does not match the cigar sitting beside it. We then head to the bathroom, where we can see some mustache scissors. I keep trying to use our items on the scissors, not realizing that there's some ginger hair right next to it. So yeah, imagine that we picked it up here. My god, who made these models? Next, we head over to the kitchen and we notice that the trash chute is really heavy. We then find this button on the ground. Seems like a bad copy of a button you'd find in a military uniform. We then talk to the cook, and yeah, I think I'm starting to realize what Frogwares is all about. He complains about a Frenchman who... honestly, I don't fully understand it. I guess he acts like as a governess? But they have a governess already. Anyways, he influences what goes on in the kitchen and the cook doesn't like it. He also says that he heard the trash chute 2 times. Once it was Mary, one of the staff. She even teased him, telling him not to fall asleep in the cellar again. The second time was right after Brownsville was shot. He didn't see or hear anyone except the chute noise, but he assumes it was also Mary, right? Totally, dude. Don't worry about it. Back in the ballroom, we apparently can't check if there's a button missing on that guy's jacket. So, okay, let's see. We go to this area where we find Mary cleaning the floor. She's been cleaning this exact spot since before the shot, so there's no way the shooter went up the stairs at the very least. Also, surprise! She only opened the trash chute once! Mary, too, seconds that Brownsville was really harsh, but he did pay very generous wages, so... Oh, and the cook's a drunk, apparently. I don't know if that's gonna become important later, but hey. Another door, another set of clues. There's a little purse on the floor here, and we check its contents out. There's Lavinia's passport, tickets from Geneva to London, and a small gun. It's not looking good for you. We then enter this other room, where we find a textbook for learning French. And tucked in there, the Frenchman's calling card. I mean, why would a Frenchman need to learn French? Maybe this is Lavinia's and she was planning on eloping with him? I don't know. Sometimes it's really hard to move to another angle or location in the game. Like, I'm clicking the little shoes, go over there! Here we find some white powder and a signed picture of a woman. Apparently you can miss the picture and then be completely screwed in the end, so yay, Frogwares! Under this table here, we find a small tin with white powder. Not the buggy game also adding difficult to spot things. Over here we find what seems to be more white powder. In the dining room we notice this guest list with some notes and... Ah, so here's where all the notes go. There's a cryptic note saying villager and serpent on Bromsby's notes for his speech, and that's kind of everything of interest. We then show the gun to Miss Lavinia. Can you explain yourself?
This revolver, is it yours?
Oh dear God!
Why would you require a pistol?
My father gave it to me shortly after I arrived. Dear God, what will the police make of this? I swear I did not kill my father. No!
But why would he press you to carry a pistol?
He seemed most anxious for my safety and his own. He told me that he would explain everything to me later, after the reception.
Well, if your dad thought you were in danger but decided to leave the talk for later, that was incredibly stupid of him, not gonna lie. We didn't have to measure the stain here, and I kept using the door instead, but okay, fine, got it. Next up, we examine the base of this armor. Like, you can't look at the armor, it has to be the base. And behind it we find this black fabric that could feasibly cover a whole person. In the smoking room, there are some footprints to measure.
It is a size 7.
And now we finally have seen everything there is to see in the manor and move over to Watson's POV. We tell the coachman to guard the side entrance, making sure no one walks past, and then go talk to the people outside. There's nothing especially interesting though. The governess is too calm, this man is too anxious, these guys are too drunk, and this girl is crying, but it seems unrelated. She tells us that her friend didn't show up like he promised he would. By the way, what is this hairstyle the women are rocking? Is this supposed to be one of those 19th century buns? It looks hideous. We then reunite with Holmes and notice some size 7 footprints and a cigar stub next to it. And now we can head back to Baker Street to take a closer look at the evidence. Oh, by the way, Lestrade is here. I thought you were uglier. Well, time to go! Once home, Holmes announces that we have to review the evidence and tells Watson to check a few books in our library for relevant information. Luckily, we don't have to figure out what the relevant information is, we can only pick up the relevant ones. The first one is a study roughly correlating shoe size to height, which tells us that our footprint person is around 164 centimeters. The second book is on ballistic science, talking about how any marks on nearby walls are probably gonna be level with the shooter's eyes. So after measuring a mark, you can add roughly 15 centimeters to get the shooter's height. The third is a study on cigar ashes, and we can link the flaky white ashes we found to a distinctly Brazilian tobacco. Now it's time for Holmes to shine, and my god is this game missing any kind of tutorial for the science kit section. Like, why do I have to heat up the water before adding soap to wash a piece of cloth? I don't know, but eventually I figured it out. Here's what we find. The piece of cloth I forgot to mention I got, I think? Yeah, I forgot. Anyways, it's got some stains that are sticky but not very oily. Riveting stuff. The red hair has a light, feminine perfume even though we got it next to mustache scissors, and the black hair is a man's. The 3 powder samples we found are indeed similar, probably the same since we mixed them all together, and putting the powder in water we can see that it's similar to starch. And now we get another bug? I don't know, maybe it was just stupid, but here we have this quiz where we have to answer some yes or no questions and present evidence to support our claims. And even double checking my answers with the walkthrough, still I kept failing. We'll run through the questions anyways to recap the day, but then I needed to perform an emergency save file transplant. Question 1. Do we have an idea of the weapon used for the crime? Yeah, we do. That military guy told us about it with his supersonic hearing. Question 2. Could the murderer escape through the stairs to the 2nd floor? Oh, the Americans are showing their asses with the 2nd floor. Anyways, no. Remember that Mary told us that she'd been cleaning that spot by the stairs since before the shot, and no one walked past her, so no. Question 3. Are the ashes found in the smoking room from an English cigarette? No. Question 4. Was the side door going to the kitchen open after the shot? Yeah, I guess. The doorknob was turned downwards, so... Question 5. Did Miss Lambert choose the tablecloths and arrange the tables? Oh, I guess I forgot to relay this all-important info to you. The Frenchman chose all that. Question 6. Do we have any idea of the murderer's height? Yeah, we measured that gunpowder mark, plus 15 centimeters, so our culprit should be about 180 centimeters. Question 7. Did any other guests, other than Colonel Patterson, have bad eyesight? Yeah, there were arrangements made for seats which suggest that there were. And boom, day 2. Yeah, we missed whatever cutscene there was of Good Night Watson because the game just didn't accept my answers. Anyways. So, Lestrade is here and... Oh, okay, there are some exposition documents we gotta go over. Things aren't looking too good for Lavinia Brownsby. Bullet corresponds to her gun's caliber. And then, the recording bugged out. Back to the game to re-record this part.
Wench be sure to marry, lest he be branded a witch.
Okay, we're back. Oh, but it's been determined by the investigation that the shot was extremely precise. Way too precise for Lavinia to have feasibly done it. We then get the complete story of Bromsby's life. He built a bridge, started business in Bombay thanks to his sister's financial help.
What's your name, Jay from Bombay! Jay from Bombay!
Married the daughter of an officer, had Lavinia, moved back to England, and now has one of the largest construction companies here.
All this is very interesting. According to the evidence, it seems that the shooter was not in the ballroom or the corridor. Where was he then?
Are you finished, Watson? Shall we go? Let us return to Sherringford Hall. Cabby!
Hey, you okay there, governess? She goes off to fetch Miss Lavinia, and we talk a bit with Grimble. Why do two persons of interest in this case have such silly names? We talk a bit more about Lavinia and her father's strained relationship, and Grimble recounts something that happened back in India when she defended a friend against her father's theory, and no one in the country would have dared to talk to him like that, blah 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 blah. Holmes then heads out to check some things, and for some reason we linger with the three others talking about sports.
You enjoy the sport of polo, except that they may well be. Mounting is at full speed. You cannot imagine the old dangerous sport. To achieve full form,
but what if the Brixton, in my opinion, is the finest example of how to like a wall play?
In the smoking room, we find these gloves, and in the powder room, we find Lavinia's purse. Again. In it, there's a London opera program and a letter from Lieutenant Harrington, saying that he moved to a place close by to help her in these trying times, and that he left his gloves there so he could visit again without looking improper. Lieutenant Harrington is the guy who defended her yesterday, by the way. Hey, remember the Italian singer we were supposed to investigate in the beginning of the game? Yeah, me neither. We then talk to the chef, and he's pissed that someone made the fancy alcohol purchased for the party disappear when it clearly should have been left for him. Back in the ballroom, Lavinia's here now, and we ask her to retell things from her perspective.
First I attended my appearance in the powder room. Then, as my father requested, I was standing quietly just inside the ballroom. I powdered my face one last time, while everyone, including myself, was watching my father. Suddenly, I heard this noise from behind me, and then I saw my father stagger and fall. Oh, my dear Lord. So I ran to his side and found that he was dead.
She also tells us that the man she found upon returning from boarding school wasn't the same man she remembered. There was a new anxiety in his eyes, and that Lieutenant Harrington is proving himself to be a true friend. Yep, I'm sure he is. We then go up to Bromsby's study to examine his private documents, but...
I suppose Sir Bromsby kept his papers in this drawer.
Watch out!
Good God!
It must be one of Fowlett's inventions. Sir Bromsby mentioned he had asked his lawyer to devise security measures to protect his private documentation. I remember now that Fowlett has a unique passion for mechanizations and automatons. I had no idea what kind of devices he had created.
Inspector Lestrade, I give you leave to tend to your appearance. I doubt you can return to the yard in such disrepair.
Well, let's take a careful look around. We check the exploded drawer, but there's very little left of the papers to even attempt to make any sense out of them. Here we see a picture of Bromsby, Grimble, and a man who has been cropped out. All that's left of this mysterious figure is a Masonic ring. There's a letter from the lawyer and apparently inventor, Fowlett, saying that Miss Lavinia will be extremely surprised at the news Bromsby was gonna reveal at her birthday party, and that a certain page from a nearby book should help him. The page in question goes over illustrations hidden within other illustrations. From what I gathered, it's basically the sex scene from The Lion King, but more elaborate. We're done here, so we grab Watson and head over to Flatton, where Fowlett lives. We haven't met him yet, and he's a crucial piece of the puzzle.
Cabby!
Here we talk to the chief of police, and he says that Fowlet left town 2 nights ago, but we're still welcome to talk to his neighbor. The neighbor just confirms that Fowlet is weird but polite, that he saw him heading to the station in the middle of a storm with his own 2 wives, and oh, he left the key to his house. Thank you, how kind. We send Watson to question the station master and then head into the house, alone.
My word, I can't see anything. Ah, Fowlet liked his jests.
He's a size 6. Jesus Christ. Okay, I like your style, Fowlet. There's this automaton and these illustrations on the wall. They have hidden images, just like that page described, but I didn't inspect them too closely just yet. Over here, there's a little wooden bolt which we take. I have to say, it always feels weird in a point-and-click game when you can't examine everything, just the important items. Like, I wanna know what Holmes has to say about the scout, you know? But anyways, to the left, Holmes says that the shelf warrants a closer look. And then the option to inspect it disappears. Okay. Entering the kitchen, we find that same flaky ash in the ashtray. And gin. And blood.
Gin! Blood. 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 Gin! Gin!
Oh, okay. The interesting book from the bookcase just went straight into our inventory. It's a poem, I think, about a snake and a peasant. The very same things that were noted on Brownsby's speech. To the right, there's this corridor. The first door is locked, but the second door leads us to Fowlet's room. By the way, small nitpick, but when something's locked, Holmes says,
Closed.
Yeah, that's technically correct, but... whatever. In the bedroom... we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. We can note that there's a screwdriver holding the window shut. This... whatever the fuck this is. Some certificates from old automaton competitions. There's a picture of Fowlet, and apparently this is what constitutes as quite a beast in Holmes's eyes. Like, even considering that there was no fast food back then, yada yada, his shoulders are still broader than his waist. But anyways, I don't have to go into detail and try to calculate Fowlet's BMI here. You have eyes. From the sink in the corner, we grab a greasy substance, and then note that the pillow is missing from the bed. And now I think we're gonna have to solve that number puzzle. Yeah, I looked it up. There is no hint whatsoever on where these numbers are supposed to go. Apparently it's something to do with the sum of the lines and columns. Yeah, okay. From this accursed box, we get a token we can use on that automaton in the living room. It gives you 3 cards and you have to pick the 4th card, which logically matches the set. You can try as many times as you want, it just spits the token out if you choose wrong, and blah blah blah, we got a piece of paper. The first animal came from the shore. It was afraid of the powerful waves. The second came from the valley. It was afraid of the river with fast streams. The third came from hills and was hiding from the downpour. The last one that Noah welcomed came down from the mountains. It wasn't afraid of the water, but it heard the wrath of the Lord roaring. Well, we can identify those animals as the crab, deer, bear, and eagle, which are hidden in the illustrations. Now what? Turns out that thing near the bed was a Noah's Ark puzzle. We put the boat we found earlier on top and make the animals enter the ark in that order. Something I really like about this is that there are more animals than mentioned in the paper, so you actually have to think a bit more to be able to solve it. Games rarely do that and I appreciate it. Solving this puzzle opens the safe, where we get these papers, and...
Holmes, Murray has just found a key in the garden.
Watson's disembodied voice speaks to us, so we go outside to grab that key in the garden. Walking back into the house, the key opens the only locked door here, where we find...
Watson, over here!
My God, this man is dead, Holmes.
Brilliant deduction. I thought perhaps he was tired and decided to rest under a pile of potatoes, which in turn fractured his skull. Watson, you see everything, but fail to observe. I do not have time for trifles.
Oh, really, Holmes? You go too far.
What is this? Holmes would never be this rude to Watson. Okay, maybe sometimes he would, but not simply over a dead body. I'm sorry, but I really hate when Holmes and Watson aren't portrayed as BFFs. Like, do you really think if they were in this level of bickering, they would have been able to live together for decades? Anyways, let's continue. Watson runs off to tell Lestrade about this, while we stay and investigate. First, we pick these papers off the floor, and now it's finally reading time. First, there's a letter by Brownsby talking about Wyatt, who's apparently been antagonizing Grimble. Brownsby doesn't think he's bad, just that London is full of terrible influences, and asks Fowler to tutor him, far from the city. Mr. Miller and Mr. Kirby, accessories... Okay, this is from some court case, but... I don't know, is this about the Wyatt guy? Next one. Dear Mr. Fowler. Okay, so Wyatt's last name is Collins. So that last note wasn't about him. I don't know what that relates to. Seems like Wyatt was shipped off to serve as the supervisor in a copper mine. Ah yes, what great way to discipline the youth. Give him power. And then Wyatt was arrested by the Brazilian police, and then he was discharged. Ooh, draft of Sir Brownsby's will. According to the wishes of Sir Brownsby, the will is to be written in favor of Herman Grimble, unless he predeceases the testator, regardless of Miss Lavinia's majority. She will be paid a substantial pension during this period. In the event that Miss Lavinia should marry before the death of Mr. Grimble, then she and her husband would exercise control over the Brownsby assets, to the prejudice of Mr. Grimble. Regardless, Mr. Grimble would retain his right to oversee the daily operations of Brownsby Enterprises and over any portion of dividends according to his personal investment in the aforesaid business. Find out the information in legal texts about the majority and probable success of the Harris to contest such a document. Horace Fowlett. I mean, this is a very common woman can't manage company 19th century will. There's nothing at all drastic about it. Then there's a letter from Brownsby to Fowlett saying that he wouldn't be able to visit like planned because of a terrible revelation. Seems like Wyatt had accused Grimble of something, and now Brownsby's found out that the accusations were founded. He doesn't go into any detail though. Then there's this antique store card, which showcases the same handwriting as the Frenchman's calling card. Remember him? The guy who helped making aesthetic decisions in Sherringford Hall, and who we haven't seen yet? Yeah. Lastly, there's this code. We then measure the deceased's shoes.
Size 6.
I love how shoe size is being used to keep track of different mysterious figures in the story, and it's kind of funny because it's so flawed. Leaving the cellar, we are ejected to the outside, so I'm guessing we're done with the house. Going around the garden and checking this barrel, we see a footprint, size 10, and this is the bedroom window. Again, beautiful work with the models here, guys. Keep it up. Back to Watson, he tells us that the station master assured him that Fowlett boarded the train, but the body in the cellar is also Fowlett and has been dead for a while. So, back to Baker Street. Let's go over the second questionnaire, but I have to say, if there isn't a 15-minute cutscene of Holmes explaining everything waiting for us at the end, I'm gonna be pissed. Question 1. Did Horace Fowlett receive a caller the evening he was supposed to leave? Yeah, his neighbor said so. Question 2. Were all of the guests in the ballroom at the time of the shooting? Yeah, apparently. Question 3. Did Sir Brownsby and his daughter have a good relationship? No, as multiple people have told us. Question 4. Was Horace Fowlett aware of the problems between Herman Grimble and Sir Brownsby? Yes, we found that letter where Brownsby exposed the issue to him. Question 5. Was anything missing from Fowlett's house? Yes, the pillow. Question 6. Did somebody enter through the window at Fowlett's house? Yes, we saw that shoe print by his bedroom window.
It is simplicity itself, Watson. We have answered all the questions. We shall examine the evidence acquired yesterday. A wood trinket, substance from Fowlett's washstand, and the gloves I found at Sherringford Hall.
We start the day by looking at the greasy substance under the microscope and find out that it's a greasy substance. Great detective work there. And also that the gloves are made from a very fine white cotton. That's it. Oh my god, a cutscene. Finally.
Watson, consider this. All persons intimately involved with the preparations for the reception knew the precise position Sir Bromsby would occupy on that stage. We must remark that they had this knowledge for at least a week beforehand. Numerous experts have made much of the fact that the deadly shot was of unnatural precision. We have also learned that Horace Fowlett was a renowned expert on all types of mechanical devices and automatons. Then Fowlett is found dead a mere 2 days ago. These facts give rise to a serious line of inquiry.
I find your deductions quite probable, Holmes.
But how can we explain the guest list with notes? Any probable theory about these events must correspond in all ways, including the smallest of details. Watson, I have a general idea of what you discovered during your return to the Flatham railway station. Please correct me if I get any detail wrong. You learned from the station master that several minutes before the arrival of the last train to London, 2 men entered the station one after another. First, there appeared a tall man clothed as a worker. His hat was lowered to hide his eyes, his right hand bandaged. He took a place in the right corner near the platform. A few moments later, Horace Fowlett came in and sat down on a bench. He spoke briefly with the station master and by all appearances seemed to be freezing. I can add that you have probably learned that the station master began to work in Flatham only 4 years ago. The rest you can tell yourself.
Really, Holmes, you were right concerning the information I received from the station master. When I entered the railway station...
Okay, things are starting to become a bit more solid. But I'm still counting on that 15-minute ending cutscene. So this train station looks really nice. Probably the only location in this game that looks real. Unfortunately, we spent no time at all here. Conveniently, the exact train that Duo took is here now, so we can check the cart ourselves. Under a bench, we find a cap with a few red hairs in it, and on one we find a feather. In this trash can, we also find one of those flaky ash cigars. Holmes is pleased at Watson's findings, and then we get a visit from 2 of the Baker Street irregulars.
What can we do for you today, Mr. Holmes?
Holmes gives them a mysterious task, and then they leave.
Goodbye.
As for us, we're returning once again to Sherringford Hall.
Cabby?
I don't know why, but I find that
Cabby!
with them walking so slowly, very funny. At the manor, we talk to the governess, who seems to be in a very good mood. She tells us that she's happy for Miss Lavinia and her admirer, Lieutenant Harrington. They're such a beautiful couple. We then ask if she's ever met Wyatt and if she could describe him.
He was a very tall and slender young man, with a bright red hair. He's not well-mannered.
We also talk to the maid, and she shares a bit of gossip.
Hello. You seem to be in a fine mood.
Oh, yes, because I am sure that Miss Bramsby and Lieutenant Harrington will make a splendid couple. He's very handsome and rich.
Wait, and how do you know this?
The brother of my cousin's boyfriend is currently employed in the Queen's Army Hostel. He said that the lieutenant gave him a very generous tip when he carried the lieutenant's trunks during his move.
You don't say.
Yes, and if they decide to get married and make their home here, we won't be afraid for our jobs. And considering their youth, the family wouldn't stop growing anytime soon. I used to be a nurse, you know.
I really like that Frogwares implemented Holmes's talent for gossiping with women and making them feel at ease. Can't even compliment them and the bullshit resumes. We then talk to Mary, who tells us that Wyatt Collins used to steal from the wine cellar and then blame it on the staff the next day, and that he used to shit-talk everyone. Thank you so much for the gossip, Mary. Up in the study, we find Lestrade, Lavinia, and Harrington. He tells us that Bromsby's wish of changing the will in favor of Grimble complicates things, and hopes that we'll find an official document in the safe. We open it with the help of that numbers note from earlier, and in there we find a key and some papers. Let's see. There's this letter here. Sir, your attitude and your behavior in this affair that has set us, one against the other, is vile and contemptible. Abandon all thoughts about the Fairfax Theatre and the soil on which it stands. You conduct yourself as a prison, and prisons always come to a bad end. Dwight Richards. I'm sorry, I have no idea what this word is. And then some bank statements. No, I am not gonna try to make sense of fictional Victorian bank statements. We're now gonna head over to this Fairfax Theatre mentioned in the threatening letter. It's Bromsby Enterprises property now, and Grimble's office should be nearby. We ask Lestrade to call him to Sherringford Hall to distract him, and...
Cabby?
No, actually we don't get a cabbie for this travel, and I feel cheated. Here we actually get a nice surprise. The guy watching the gate and Holmes go way back. People usually shy away from using this "oh, Holmes actually knows the guy" trope because it can be very deus ex machina, but since people are always careful with it, I feel like it's always such a cool way to world build. Anyways, Goblet here gives us his keys but warns us to be careful. There's another guard who comes by every 2 hours or so to make sure that everything's okay. Yes, thank you so much, Goblet. I really need to read more Holmes Works Pro Bono pastiches. We can open this door to the right with the keys, and it's the administration office. Watson keeps watch while we go upstairs to investigate. Up here, there's this model of a bridge, and looking closely, we can see there's a hollow space for something. On the wall, we can see quite a few pictures, and in one of them, there's Grimble with someone who's clearly a relative. I have to admit, I'm impressed. They aren't twins, but their similarities aren't just hair color either. They actually look like brothers or cousins. On the other side of the room, we unlock a door with Goblet's keys, and here's Grimble's office. Grimble, sorry to break it to you, but your office is way too small for all this stuff. Beside the table, we can examine the statue of Ganesh.
To make a move to a town that's right for me.
Ganesh is absolutely baked. We can twist the trunk and grab a miniature of Bromsby from its mouth. Oh wait, there's a key out here. Key to Bromsby's office? Oh, I guess Goblet's keys working is just another glitch then. Anyways, there's actually a hidden safe here, and that key we got in Bromsby's safe opens it. In it, we find some more bank statements. I'm sure Holmes will explain everything later, don't worry. Using the little Bromsby on the bridge, we get a key, which opens one of the drawers in the office. Let's see, there are some papers and the key to the theater, but we can't take any of it with us because then Grimble would know that we're investigating him. We can read though. The papers include this threatening note and an article from the Bombay Observer announcing the death of a Captain Lowry. Oh great, more people to complicate things. And here, the game glitched out. There's nothing else to be done here, but the game doesn't get the memo. I thought it was maybe related to me using the wrong keys to open Grimble's office, but I replayed this whole section and no, game's just bugged. So I performed another save transplant, and now we're about to sneak into the Fairfax Theatre at night. Yay, stealth section in a game that has very unresponsive movement. I can't wait. So here's the layout. We are here. We have to get there. The guard and his dog patrol the place. They're both going up, one moving clockwise and the other counterclockwise. If this were a game built for stealth, you would observe the routes they take, maybe test their range a bit, and then you would do it. Here, run! Like the dog goes off screen. But by the game logic, we should be within the dog's range when unlocking the door because the dog has unreal range. But then we don't, and just like that we're in. We do the whole Ganesh Grimble statue key again and grab the key to the theater proper. And then there's another stealth section. I tried by myself. I followed the walkthrough, and then I just performed another save transplant, I'm sorry. I'm supposed to be out of the dog's range here. I am not. But if I move further from the dog, then the guard's gonna see me. So yeah. So here we are in the theater, and somehow we sneaked Watson in here with us. And he once again keeps watch while we investigate. Ooh, I kinda like this place. Maybe the derelict, abandoned look is more up Frogwares' alley. Over yonder, we go through this door in the back, where there's this ramp.
Quicklime! I must take precautions, as this substance is quite dangerous.
Quicklime! Oh no! There's another door here, and there's what appears to be a big hole covered by a tarp. Cutting through a section of it, we find...
This is quicklime. I need a mask to protect myself.
Bibbidi bobbidi boo, we DIY a mask and go back in. Searching the body very carefully, we find a passport. The name in it is Johannes. And also find a bottle of booze from the Richmond Abbey. We call Watson over so he can see what we've seen, and then we sneak back out. Well, Okay, the perils of living in London, I guess. Back to Baker Street, we get our questionnaire for the day. Question 1. Does Herman Grimble own the only set of keys to the Fairfax Theatre? Yeah, Goblet told us so. Question 2. Does Captain Lowry have anything in common with Bromsby Enterprises? Yes, they were both involved with the military in Bombay. Question 3. Can we say that Wyatt Collins, the nephew, is an honest person? No, remember what Mary told us about him trying to pin stuff on the staff, and also the letter reporting that he got arrested. Question 4. Can Herman Grimble be Bromsby's heir despite the missing of an official will? Yes, Lestrade said that even that unofficial letter complicated the succession, so I guess. Question 5. Was the man found at the old Fairfax Theatre from abroad? Yes, since he had his passport on him.
It is simplicity itself, Watson. We have answered all the questions.
Good morning, Holmes. During this long night I got little rest. I cannot forget the terrible face on that poor fellow we found last night. And I won't even mention those unfortunate men we encountered purely through bad luck.
You say bad luck, Watson? I think not. Lestrade will have something to say about this point when he arrives. Our dear Mrs. Hudson, she must surely have risen in the middle of the night to prepare such a feast. I presume that you have your notes, Lestrade. Good. Here are mine. You seem to be somewhat tired, my dear Lestrade. You must calm yourself.
Somewhat tired? Holmes, read it for yourself in the Morning Times. It speaks only of crisis, riots, and perhaps even revolution in the streets. The bank's in a panic, froze the entire assets of the Bromsby Company. Now Grimble's unable to pay his workers. They're leaving their work sites, marching in the streets, and even now breaking everything they see.
Good God!
My superiors inform me that in 3 days' time, Bromsby's largest suppliers threaten to stop all deliveries if a solution isn't found. It seems that the future of this city and even more depends on the resolution of this case, and I must admit I'm at a complete loss. My superiors are harassing me hourly. Every day brings some new find to bedevil me, like a corpse in the night or some other mystery that confuses this case even more. And with all of this, you want me to calm myself?
Watson, would you be so kind as to pour a cup of tea for Inspector Lestrade? You see, Lestrade, the dimensions of this case are merely a reflection of the larger faults of our fragile and complicated society. London can be viewed as a game of 4 million dominoes, which are placed one after another, just so. Should some event cause one domino to fall, then another domino shall surely fall as well, and so it will continue. To stop this chain reaction, there is only one alternative. You must remove a domino, and this reaction shall cease. I agree that the sudden spectacle of all of these falling dominoes is most disconcerting. This may lead one to make the reckless decision to remove any domino at hand to try and stop the tide of these events. But it is critical that we concentrate our efforts and reason on only one question. Which domino shall we take away? Or rather, which one are we obliged to take away due to its critical position in the chain of dominoes?
I know, Holmes. My superiors demand a guilty party, and they will have him, no later than the day after tomorrow. It matters little that I doubt his guilt. We discovered certain documents that offer proof that Grimble misappropriated funds for a personal enterprise while he was an associate in India. Sir Bromsby had discovered these improprieties, which gives Grimble an excellent motive to seek Sir Bromsby's death. So I have 2 strong possibilities for the guilty man. But I lack definitive evidence that favors one or the other. My choice is now ruled solely by a number of important presumptions and will have 2 immediate consequences. One of these individuals will obtain ownership rights in the Bromsby Company, and the other will have the executioner's rope. Either way, Holmes, we've identified one of your attackers. If you need me, I'll be at Sherringford Hall tonight.
You have shaken him, Holmes.
Such was my intent. In such a complicated case, the police have their uses. I cannot bear if they start to lose their efficiency and reason. I'm going to get dressed while you study Lestrade's findings.
I must read the documents Holmes gave me.
Oh wow, I had no idea that Bromsby Enterprises was so crucial to the world. So, on to Lestrade's papers. Misappropriation of funds. Mr. Greenbow claimed that on the night Mr. Follett was murdered, he stayed home. Since he's unmarried, there's no one to verify that claim. Oh, and Mr. Greenbow and Mr. Follett were quite similar in appearance. Okay, so maybe shady brothers with fake names, or cousins on one or both their mother's sides. On to the next paper, this one about the guys who attacked us yesterday. 1J, known in certain undesirable districts, sentenced 3 times. Oh, but for a time he was officially employed as the fire thrower at the Fairfax Theatre. So he's either working for Grimble now and attacked us because we were snooping around, or he thought we were with Grimble and get him boys, he stole my job. And then, ooh, a file on Lieutenant Harrington. Though he performed brilliantly, problems with authority, bit of a daredevil, and then he joined the reserve forces. Well, at least the vague theory that he's Wyatt in disguise seems to be discarded, since this guy has a whole history. As soon as we finish reading, Holmes urges us outside, to somewhere. Turns out we're in the middle of the Bromsby workers' strike demonstration, but they aren't our business here. We go through this door here, which leads to a small garden, and talk to the police officer guarding the place.
By Jove, if it isn't Sherlock Holmes.
Hello, Appleby. You're always nearby when there's a whiff of gunpowder in the air, aren't you?
Of course, Mr. Holmes. But what are you doing here? Aren't you working with Inspector Lestrade on the Bromsby investigation?
Appleby, I have every reason to believe that the murder of Hunter directly relates to that very case. May I ask you to tell me what you know, and then give me leave to examine the scene?
Of course, Mr. Holmes. Last night, between 9 and 9:15, a fellow came for me. I was at the pub, which lies a bit further down the lane. He told me that there was the sound of a shot from this bungalow. When we got here, the door was locked. After the landlady got her key, I opened the door. There I saw the dead man lying on the floor. And here we are.
What did you do next?
Well, Inspector Gregson is in charge of the case. He's due to arrive today to start the official investigation. At least they've removed the body. He was killed by a bullet right through his heart. There was just one shot. At first glance, it appears to have been a small caliber weapon. His landlady told me that he was a common fellow with nothing to remark about, no friends to speak of, not even a lady friend.
A lonely soul.
He has been staying here for 2 years. The landlady told me he spent most of his time with this flower garden. Indeed, I can't believe that somebody could murder a man because of his hydrangeas.
Have you found anything in the room that points to the murderer?
For the moment, no. When I entered the first time, the window facing the street was open. I closed it and secured the shutters as well. It is possible to expect anything with those demonstrators in the streets. Does this advance the investigation of the Bromsby case?
If you could wait for me here, Watson. Could you open the room for me now, Appleby?
Wow. Cinema.
It's a trace of human blood.
No fucking way. In this room, we can also look into this cupboard, but there's apparently nothing here. And an incomplete footprint. Larger than size 8, smaller than size 12. And, that's it. I have no idea why we're here either. We take a look around the garden, and...
What in the name of reason are you looking for, Holmes?
I love when this duo is written like an old married couple. Under a potted plant, we find a bill from a pawn shop, and give Watson the task of securing the item. With that, we return to Baker Street by ourselves.
Cabby!
No, that was me again. Seriously, are we just not gonna get another cabby in this game? In our apartment, we find a book that talked about Richmond Abbey, the place that produced the bottle of booze we found with the quicklime corpse. And so, we decide to visit the place. But in disguise. Once again, credit where it's due. The way one of Holmes's many disguises was implemented is genius. The way Watson describes them in the books, it truly feels like Holmes is a shapeshifter. But here we can see not a trace of Sherlock Holmes, consulting detective, and all the while this figure still has the same build as Holmes. I really like this. Anyways, here we are at the Drunken Abbey. We knock at the gate and one of the brothers speaks to us.
Yes, my son?
I am sorry to disturb you, brother, but, well, you see, I have a matter of great importance which led me here, and I am certain that you may be of help. Well, I am looking for my brother. Not a brother like yourself, but rather my brother by birth. He might have joined the order, but I think it is unlikely. You see, he has not always chosen the right path in life. I recently learned that he had had some troubles, and I have been frantic to find him. One of his acquaintances told me that my brother had spoken of Richmond's Abbey. My brother's name is James Little. Perhaps you know of him? If I ask you some questions, would it trouble you? It would at the least help me to learn whether he is here. He is unaware, but recently we received a small inheritance. I think if he were told of this, it would ease his mind and help him put these troubles behind him.
We first comment on the forest surrounding the abbey, and the brother says that, yep, it's huge. It would be pretty difficult to find someone hiding there. We then talk about the booze, how it attracts certain rascals. And yeah, they have the occasional burglar. Troublemakers will often hide in the ruins in the middle of the forest. So now we have the confusing labyrinth section. And it's very confusing. At least it has some atmosphere. That's a plus. After walking, and walking, finally, something happens.
I smell smoke.
Oh no, it's raining. Why can't the rain put it out? But yeah, no, it has to be us. You might have noticed this pond on our wanderings. Yeah, we have to make it back there and back. There's a bucket on the way. But the problem is that this forest is, well, confusing. So it takes me like 10 minutes to solve a puzzle that has a 1 minute time limit, by the way. But hey, I did it. Put out the fire and... womp womp, the papers are too charred to make sense of. Well, let's see what else we got around here. We can see the Abbey's liqueur. Ink that's not English and fell on the floor around 2 or 3 days ago. Size 10 footprints. And oh, there's a loose stone here. Let's see. In the hollow behind it, we find this letter. I have always tried to avoid boredom in any possible way. First it was just a few rounds with my fellas. Then the alcohol all the time, the alcohol all the time, all read them hundreds of times. Enough. My story is worth as much as another story. I've got nothing to be ashamed of, nothing. I was ruined and misunderstood. This swine enjoyed success in his life because of my mother's money. But half of this money, held by him, must be given back to me according to all that is right. Absolutely, Your Honor. Half! And I wasn't going to let myself so easy when you are so far away and when you dream. Owing to him, I would be able to never more to this cursed foul continent. Shades of the devil. I was told about it in school when I was quite small. Shades of the devil. Yes, certainly. They are demons. They whisper sweet words into your ear. They listen to you and make promises to you. They say that they will help you when you are down. But no! They help you to rise only so that they can lead you to hell. They lifted me, one under each arm. But when I bade them cease in the midst of their prattle, I then heard the sounds of their demon wings. Demons! Haven't done this on purpose. I swear! I'm sure he knew. But why? Why have money? It is certain, Your Honor. They I think it's a safe guess that this letter was written by Wyatt. But he would have been recognized at the party. I can't find a way to connect him to the murder, at least not yet. Well, now all that's left for us to do is leave the forest. It takes me a while, even after getting familiar with it during the put the fire out section. It really is confusing. But we make it, take a shower at Baker Street, and then head to Sharingford Hall. And then we're in Watson's shoes, having a frankly bizarre interaction with Mr. Grimble.
Oh, Dr. Watson, beg pardon for imposing on you, but I must get a message to Inspector Lestrade, and...
He is just inside, and I am sure that he would be most eager to assist you.
No, it would be better if he would hear this from you rather than myself. The present situation requires me to be elsewhere. Please be good enough to tell Inspector Lestrade that I renounce any rights to the succession. Also, I will not be at my offices. I would not wish him to waste time looking for me there. Goodbye, and I thank you for your kind assistance, Dr. Watson.
I think it's a bit late to get rid of the evidence when the police closes in, Mr. Grimble. Entering the hall, we tell Lestrade what happened, and he's pissed. He still wants to know how a dead man was found in a building only Grimble has the key to. By the way, this seems like as good an opportunity as any to talk about the soundtrack. This game has, one song. This one. As you can hear, it's not very subtle, not very ambient noise, and it plays over and over and over again. It took me 7 hours to complete the silver earring, by the way. Who on God's green earth thought that one song to rule them all was a good idea? Anyways, Holmes arrives and the two others give him the news. And Lestrade shares his theory that Brownsby was gonna announce that Lavinia would succeed him in the company, so Grimble killed him. Holmes, mysterious as ever, asks Lestrade to keep the news about Grimble a secret from Lavinia for a few days. We then ask where she is, and she's in the sitting room with her knight in shining armor. Without a chaperone? Scandalous. But first, let's read this letter we got from Mycroft. Seems like it relates to the case. Company founded by Joseph Grimble and Rainbow Waters. When the senior Grimble died, his shares passed to his partner. The Kalidasa Abyss is something people try to forget. Secrets still held by the military. Needed a bridge for supplies. Construction was entrusted to Brownsby. His plan was kinda too ambitious. Captain Lowry was there. Recurring accidents, superstitions, man-eating tiger nearby. People from nearby villages working there. The bridge was finished on schedule, but hundreds of fathers, brothers, and sons never returned to their homes. They left to build a bridge, and then were never seen again. Lowry wasn't allowed to leave. The military probably feared him spreading the terrible secret of the abyss to the people back home. Okay, Brownsby was a capitalist scumbag. What else is new? Trying to scare us with ghost stories, Mycroft? We then head over to talk to Lavinia. Lieutenant Harrington shows us a few pictures from his hunting trips, and then we ask for a word with her in private. Remember that picture we got in the beginning of the game? Yeah, we're finally gonna use it.
Does this photograph belong to you?
Yes, it's mine. This is the photo of an actress who was with a touring London company. They gave a performance at the town near my boarding school in Switzerland. This is Miss Davenport. She was kind enough to meet with us in her dressing room after the show.
And how would you describe this actress?
Oh, she was fascinating, on the stage and in life as well. She personally inscribed this likeness for me. You see, they were available for purchase during the intermission. She was so very beautiful.
Pray, continue.
When I met with her, she showed me this beautiful earring that she wore. It was in the shape of a wave with foam, made entirely of sparkling stones. It's strange, but I have never talked about this with anyone till now. I do hope I see her again someday.
Perhaps. Now, listen to me, my dear child. I must ask you to speak to no one about our conversation, not under any circumstances. The discovery of the truth rests on your silence.
Oh, is this finally gonna circle back to the silver earring? Are they truly not gonna scream cabby anymore? This is most depressing.
This lieutenant seems a very commendable person. Miss Lavinia is fortunate to have him near. Lestrade was saying that he has found more evidence of Grimble's trail. The corpse we found at the cement factory may well have been an accomplice and the true murderer of Sir Bromsby. Grimble could have easily obtained an invitation for him to the reception. Then, some time after the deed was done, Grimble eliminated his accomplice to prevent his speaking. Or perhaps not. Whatever are you musing about, Holmes? Holmes?
What is it, Watson?
Blast it, Holmes! You haven't heard a word that I have said.
It is of no consequence. Tell me, have you had the opportunity to redeem the item with the receipt we found at Hunter's?
Oh, yes, it was a simple matter. In order to get the best price, Hunter agreed to redeem the item within 2 days' time. Look, these appear to be real diamonds.
Ooh, it's the silver earring. But no, still no idea what that random murder has to do with this case. Well, it's questions time. Question 1. Was the leader of the thugs who attacked Holmes directly connected to the case? Yes, he used to work at the Fairfax Theatre. Question 2. Can we say that the person who killed Simon Hunter is killed with weapons? Who's Simon Hunter again? Is that the random guy? I guess. Yeah, Appleby must have said something about that. Question 3. Are the ruins near Richmond's Abbey a common haunt for wanderers? Yeah, that brother told us so. Question 4. Can the handwriting on the message found in the ruins be the same as that on a previous document? I hadn't thought about that, but that scraggly handwriting that kinda looks like mine can be found in the 2 threatening notes we found earlier. Question 5. Is it easy for a retired English officer to find work as a prison warden abroad? Yes. Oops, that was a detail from Mycroft's letter that I forgot to mention. That's actually a pretty common career choice after retiring.
It is simplicity itself, Watson. We have answered all the questions.
We start the day by receiving Lestrade, who's really tired after his meeting with the minister.
But hold on, how on earth did you know
that, Holmes?
Well, since we're the Watsons in this situation, let's hear Lestrade's explanation, shall we?
Well, our incorruptible yet ever practical minister shared the thoughts of the Chancellor of the Exchequer with me. They've decided that it'd be most imprudent, given the crisis we're under, for a young lady barely 18 years of age to take control over one of the country's 3 biggest building enterprises.
I begin to understand, but
According to the minister, despite his bad habits due to the lack of consideration for his partner, Grimble is the only individual that the council has faith in to reverse the current state of the Bromsby holdings. It was further explained to me that if there is a choice to make in the direction of my investigation, and lacking any new evidence to the contrary, I must take these concerns into account.
This is outrageous.
And you, Lestrade, what are your personal thoughts on the matter?
I really can't say, Holmes. The prospect offered by Grimble seemed so attractive. He had credible motive to murder Bromsby and then foul it. In addition, he was the only individual with apparent access to the shed at the cement factory where we discovered the corpse of his presumed accomplice. However, the only gadfly to this theory is his statement to Dr. Watson when he clearly renounced all rights of succession.
That is an item of singular curiosity.
It is difficult for me to believe that a man who could plan and execute 2 or 3 murders with such cool presence of mind would give up an opportunity of this magnitude so easily. I also have spent sufficient time at Sherringford Hall to have a high opinion of Lieutenant Harrington.
I agree with you. This young man, by all accounts, has an unimpeachable character.
I have no evidence to cast doubt on the truthfulness of his testimony. We reconstructed the crime, and it was evident from where he stood he could easily see Miss Bromsby despite the crowd. Really, Holmes, I'm not a man who would hand over an innocent girl to the executioner, even should it cost me my career.
I am pleased to hear you say this, Lestrade. By the way, Lestrade, have you any knowledge of the place known as Aston's Theatre?
Is it that shabby theatre that lies near the bank of the Thames?
Yes, several weeks ago it was acquired by the Fairfax Theatre Company. Their international tour appears to have been most successful as they are set to open their new play in a week. Dwight Richards happens to be their director.
You mean the author of the threatening letter that we found on Bromsby's desk? I must admit, I thought the letter to be of small consequence. After all, it involved a matter from so long ago.
Sometimes old wounds are the most painful. In fact, we are leaving for Aston's right now. I know that you're quite busy, but if you feel like joining us, meet us at noon.
Wait. You know what? Let's just carry on. Entering the theater, it seems they're in the middle of rehearsal. The janitor tries to kick us out, but turns out that he's actually Holmes's old acting professor. Well, this is getting a little bit convenient, but still believable, I guess. We ask him what he knows about the Fairfax theater troupe, and he says that 2 months ago they returned from an international tour, with Richards having enough money to buy back Aston's after finally resolving his troubles. Tragedy.
What tragedy?
Their last tour started about 3 years ago. At that time, the troupe was housed at the Fairfax Theatre. But a series of failures forced the owners to sell it at a substantial loss. The owners were 3 individuals: Dwight Richards, their current director, Miss Davenport, their star actress and the mistress of Richards, and lastly, a young actor, costumier, make-up man called Jeffries. They decided, after the sale, to launch an international tour in order to raise funds. During their travels, Jeffries and Miss Davenport developed a close relationship, which was much to the regret of the hot-headed Richards. He is a gypsy by birth. No one can be more possessive and quick-tempered than a gypsy.
Pray continue.
In short, a dark tragedy occurred in a village in Latin America, located not far from the Amazon. One evening, after their performance, someone noticed that Miss Davenport and Jeffries had gone missing. The local authorities were notified, and the alarm was raised.
And Richards?
Richards was implicated in some manner, it seems to me. However, there was no proof of his involvement, and no bodies were ever found.
This guy's name is Kirby, by the way. This game and the goofy names, I swear. Wait, Kirby? Didn't we read something about him being arrested? Like in one of Brown's papers? We then talk to this young man, who's absolutely smitten by the main actress. We ask about his presence here and learn a lot by talking to him, actually. His name is Bruce Aston, and his father was the owner of the theater. Mr. Richards bought the Astons back from the bank, but when the bank took the building, they didn't take the keys. So Bruce would stop by every now and then to tidy the place up, fix a broken window, that sort of thing. Seeing his dedication to the place, Richards decided to hire him. Pretty smart move. We then talk to this actress here, who seems to have a slightly different opinion of Miss Davenport than her fellow actors. And she weirdly keeps asking for her red wig. Girl, I don't know where your red wig is. Next, we talk to the star of the play, who's really nice, and we can't fail to notice that beautiful earring she's wearing.
Oh, that was a gift from Veronica. She got it along with 2 other matching earrings and a small jewel case. She gave me this one, another to Doris, and kept the most beautiful for herself. Veronica insisted on cleansing it herself weekly with a special cleanser. It was remarkable and kept the earring all sparkling like stars. When I saw her last, Veronica was wearing her earring. She never parted with it.
Since we've already talked to everyone here, we enter the dressing room, where we can see Doris passed out. Let's not bother her right now, yes? This door here leads us to a hallway. Let's see. We can look around this room, controlling Watson for some reason. He wants to participate, I guess. Here we get a story about people being eaten by piranhas, and an inventory of the company's costumes, listing 30 of them. But when we look in the wardrobe, there's only 29 of them. The artillery officer one is missing. Following that inspection, we talk to Richards himself.
Who is it? Mr. Richards, my name is Sherlock Holmes. You may put away your knife. Rest assured, I am indeed Sherlock Holmes. Thank you for receiving us, Mr. Richards. Would you mind if I asked you a few questions?
I will answer your questions, Mr. Holmes, only because I have heard about you.
Would you tell me about Sir Bromsby?
I will not lie to you, I hated Bromsby. He is the cause of all my troubles, I swear. I have often dreamed of killing Bromsby with my own 2 hands, but I didn't kill him.
Do you know an Asian named Wang Jie?
What would he be doing there? Well, in the days of the Fairfax Theatre, I once employed a Chinese fellow who went by that name. However, I was forced to dismiss him because he was a great deal of trouble, and I've never seen him since that time.
You retain several keys from the Fairfax Theatre, don't you?
Well, I don't understand the purpose of your questions, but yes, there were indeed 2 keys for the Fairfax Theatre main door. When the bank took possession, we gave only one of them to Bromsby's assistant. When asked, we lied and said there was only 1 key.
But why?
Well, we kept the other one out of spite. We had thoughts of returning in the night and wreaking havoc, but we had no opportunity, as we left for abroad after the transfer to go on our tour. I suppose the key may have been lost somewhere along our travels.
About the disappearance of Miss Davenport.
I don't know why you want to talk about it. Does some vile curiosity cause you to torment me in this way? Oh, this can't be possible. How did you come by this? Dear God, if only someone like yourself had been present that evening.
Please tell us what's happened.
That night, after the performance, I left to stroll alone along the riverbank. The next morning, I had barely returned when I was seized by 2 local policemen and led to a prison cell for interrogation.
Why?
When I got there, an Englishman, the local chief of police, told me that a deserted boat had been discovered along the opposite bank of the river. Inside the boat, I found a star covered with blood. It belonged to Veronica, who had vanished, along with my other partner, Jeffries.
And then what happened?
No one could prove my innocence, but they also found no proof of my complicity in these events, nor had they found any bodies.
Tell us a little more about your partners.
I had met Jeffries while on tour. He was just a young tramp drunkard. Whatever my feelings were then, I feel no pity for him now. He betrayed me. But it wasn't the same with Veronica. I fear the pain caused by these events will forever haunt me.
Thank you, Mr. Richards.
It is nothing, Mr. Holmes.
This man is a wonderful actor.
Maybe, Watson. Maybe.
I mean, it didn't seem to me like he was lying. He's obviously a very passionate person, but I think he was telling the truth. But I don't know. We then go through the other door in the dressing room and speak to another member of the troupe, and he tells us some very interesting things about the tragedy. He noted that Miss Davenport and Jeffries left all their possessions behind when they disappeared. Jeffries could have totally done that, but that sounds insane for Miss Davenport, so that pretty much rules out the possibility that they actually just ran away together. And then, when they all finally returned to England, Mr. Richards strangely asked him to do a personal service and to keep it a secret. To take all of Veronica's possessions and store them in a storage room only Richards has the key to. Well, that's not so bad. Like, store the belongings of my lost lover. Oh, so suspicious. Anyways, we talked to Doris. Wait, was it Doris? Anyways, she's absolutely sloshed, so no help there. And yes, only Richards has the key. Except he doesn't.
She is fabulous, isn't she?
Do you have a complete set of keys to the theatre?
Oh, yes. Take them. But you will see to their safe return.
Why, thank you, my good sir. Going up to the storage room and taking a look around, we notice this chest here. It's never been forced open, but there also doesn't appear to be a lock. We can't help but notice that this beach scene has the same colors as the earring. Maybe if...
I see. To open the safe, I must have the 2 other earrings.
It's actually really easy. We show Veronica's earring to the news star, and she's like, "Yes, Mr. Holmes, you can borrow mine, and I'll get Doris's for you as well." Inserting the earrings in their respective slots, we find this picture of Miss Davenport, Richards, and a third person, possibly their friend who owned the previous theater with them. Some accounts of exotic places, nothing important, and a note. But before we can read it, we're transported to meet with Lestrade, who has some interesting news.
Well, well, gentlemen, you arrive at precisely the right moment.
Is your good mood a sign that you have found something of interest?
Absolutely, Holmes. It seems to me I caught the right end this time.
What? Really?
We learned about it only by chance. It appears that at 1 o'clock this morning, Grimble arranged for his solicitors to send his demands to the court for the appropriation of Bromsby Enterprises. My men will spare nothing in their search for the elusive Grimble.
Lestrade, pray, continue.
Then I followed your advice and we advanced further into our investigation of Mr. Richards. Did you know that his true name is Gaetano Riccardino? As this Mr. Riccardino, at age 19, he was sentenced to 2 years imprisonment for armed robbery of a fair stall. And who would you think the complainant was in this case? In truth, a certain Melvin Bromsby. This new evidence of his criminal past makes him another principal suspect in these murders.
Very interesting. Any other findings?
It would seem that Grimble and Richards are old associates. They were both intimately involved in the sale and transfer of the Fairfax Theatre. These two make quite a pair, don't you agree?
Well, Lestrade, I'll keep my thoughts on these matters secret for the moment.
Bah, you're not playing according to Hoyle. Really, Holmes, you must at least tell me your opinions on Richards.
Mr. Richards is an intelligent person. He is a man of great personal resources. If I had the power of Scotland Yard at my disposal, I would take all steps necessary to ensure that Mr. Richards is secure within a prison cell, and the sooner the better for all concerned. When the case involves murder, it is not wise to underestimate any possibilities.
You are a good man, Holmes. I swear upon my name that within the space of an hour our friend Mr. Richards will be warming a cold cell at Dartmoor.
Very well, my friend. By the way, I would like to see you tomorrow at Sherringford Hall to discuss in greater detail some of the more puzzling elements of this case. Can I expect you?
I would not miss it for the world. This is most fortuitous, as Miss Bromsby also invited me to the hall. I was told they had good news to share, and it seems to me an engagement announcement must be at hand.
So, we shall see you tomorrow. Let us return to Baker Street.
Something that is kinda missing from this game is the rivalry between Lestrade and Holmes. Like, where did it go? Frogwares decided not to show it? Not even a little bit? That's a choice. Well, back in Baker Street, we receive a parcel and our final round of questions. But hold on, let's read the latest scraps of paper first. First, that note we found in the trunk. It says, "I can't believe that you could take it all back. Everything cannot be finished between us. Let us meet tonight, I beg you." Then there's an article from the Bombay Observer stating that the body of an engineer, Raymond Waters, has been found. And then there are some notes on the people's shoe sizes, and yeah. Well, let's hop into these questions. Question 1. Are there several sets of keys for the Aston Theatre? Yeah, we used one while Richard held on to the other. Question 2. Did one of the actresses lose a red-haired wig? Yes, and she asked us to find it. Question 3. Could the discovery in the dressing room be connected to the case? The dressing room. Oh, right, the missing costume. Of course! Remember that we found a fake army button in the kitchen? I bet that came from this missing costume. Question 4. Could the writing on the message to Veronica Davenport be found elsewhere? Oh! The Frenchman visit card! And by extension, the antique shop card. The plot chickens. We then get an optional set of questions where we can put in our bets for all the culprits in all the murders. It's not necessary, but it is a fun challenge for people who are trying to solve the mystery by themselves. Though, unless I'm going blind, I went through all the options for culprits over and over, and there's one very important person missing. Jeffries. Never change, Frogwares. Never change. And now we get one last
Cabby!
Before the long-awaited Holmes explains everything cutscene.
Mr. Holmes, Dr. Watson, I feel relieved that everything is settled. The inspector told me that you were not as useful as you had hoped in this case, but you did your best, and I am grateful to you.
Dear Lestrade, well, the inspector deliberately minimized my role in this matter so that I could reveal a secret to you.
I wish Lieutenant Harrington could be here now, but...
He had to leave for London on a very urgent business.
But how could you know?
It is my business to know, Miss Bromsby. Thus, I am able to tell you about the case of the silver earring. Everything begins on that sad afternoon, which was to celebrate your birthday, and ended with the untimely death of your father. Miss Bromsby, you did not murder your father. I kissed your hand that day and did not detect even the slightest smell of gunpowder. I also discovered powder traces that proved the shot was fired from behind the second side door. You were not seen at that door, but where did the murderer go after taking his shot? Everyone who tried to exit through the side entrance found it blocked. According to witnesses and other evidence, none of the guests could have possibly been the murderer, because they were all present in the ballroom. No one left through the service door, and traces confirm that no one could have fled by using the staircase. The windows in the kitchen, as elsewhere in the manor, were appointed with thick bars, thus they offered no escape. So did he vanish into thin air? In fact, one of the parties did leave the ballroom and went to the kitchen corridor. He left to meet his accomplice, who was not an invited guest. This accomplice was a professional actor who was disguised to resemble our missing invitee. This guest hid under voile in the shadow of a statue and waited for his moment. Meanwhile, his twin acted out his part in the ballroom and provided the murderer with a perfect alibi. When the killer heard the applause, he left his hiding place, aimed, took his shot, and hit his target. It is important to know that the actor was well placed at the manor. He secured entry to the manor by impersonating a French head waiter. Using his position, he persuaded those in charge to use long tablecloths and to arrange the tables in a most peculiar manner. When the shooting occurred, our actor joined the crowd and rapidly crept across the room, concealed under the tables. As he neared the side door, he rose from beneath the last table and acted as if he had been jostled and fallen. However, as he stood, he accidentally snagged a small piece of his dirty glove upon a chair. When he arrived at the door, which was held closed by the murderer, he tapped on it using a prearranged code and was allowed entry. He exited to the corridor while his partner continued to hold the door shut against all others. The actor discarded his disguise in the deep kitchen well, helped himself to 2 bottles of excellent whiskey, and quietly went outside. The assassin waited several minutes. Then, in the last seconds of the confusion, he returned to the ballroom. Thus, we have the crime committed by an individual whom everyone swears was in the room when the shot was fired.
But this agrees with my conclusions. Richard is an actor, and everyone swears that Grimble was in the room. I didn't consider the course of events as you described, Holmes, but admit it, our deductions agree. Moreover, both of these suspects are similar in size and manner.
Your theory presumes that Grimble is an excellent shot, which is false. It also takes on faith that Sir Bromsby had discovered the misappropriations, supplying Grimble his motive, but irrefutable proof that neither Grimble nor Richards were guilty waited at Horace Fowlett's, the matter of his pillow.
But there was no pillow at Horace Fowlett's.
Nevertheless, Mr. Fowlett slept with one. When I arrived at his home, I believed him already dead. Therefore, the news of his hasty departure came as no surprise. From the evidence obtained at his home and the statements of his neighbour, I learned the following. On the evening of his death, Mr. Fowlett was visited by a man who desired to sell him some exotic trifle. While this man distracted Mr. Fowlett, a second man quietly crept into the house and tried to open his safe. This individual was well acquainted with the house and the location of the safe, but when he failed to open it, he most likely became enraged and killed Mr. Fowlett. This individual, Miss Bromsby, was your cousin, Wyatt Collins, who returned to England under the name Johansson.
But what about this pillow?
Mr. Fowlett's pillow had vanished. Later, Dr. Watson discovered a feather from the pillow in the train compartment used by the man who impersonated Fowlett. But why did Fowlett's impersonator take the pillow, and why didn't the station manager notice it? Mr. Fowlett was short, but very portly. In order to imitate him, the man used the pillow to create the appearance of a stouter man. There is no other explanation. This man was a much leaner man than Mr. Fowlett, Mr. Grimble, or Mr. Richards.
Then, Holmes, who did murder Sir Bromsby? And for what reason?
You'll see, Lestrade, when it's a question of multiple murders, except for the deviant ones, there are 2 primary motives, revenge and greed. Wyatt Collins' presence at Fowlett's tells us his motive was about Bromsby's wealth. He went there for the express purpose of stealing the will so that he would receive at least a portion of Bromsby's estate. If his uncle had died with no will found, Collins would have been entitled to a share of the inheritance under English law.
But if my cousin failed in his attempt and the evidence clears my name, though I am to inherit, why were my father and cousin murdered? Besides, tomorrow I am to announce my engagement and will be married soon.
Holmes, hold on. There is a flaw in your reasoning. There is only one key for the door to the cement factory, and Grimble is the only person known to have it. So he must be directly involved in the murder of Johansson. I mean Collins.
Is that true, Lestrade? Mr. Richards told me that there was indeed a second key which was lost. And have you forgotten the murder of the barman hunter? A young man without any criminal record, whose sole interests were painting and flowers. Why was he murdered in cold blood, with no signs of forceful entry or theft at his lodgings? Simply put, he was killed because he was present when your father was murdered. But why Hunter? What did he see or hear? And above all, how did he acquire the earring of Miss Veronica Davenport, the leading actress of the Fairfax Theatre and Dwight Richards' mistress?
I can stand this no more. My thoughts are dazed. Will you finally reveal who murdered my father?
The murderer? Here he comes now. I understand your feelings of incredulity, but I have never been more serious. You must know that the first person who enters this room is the murderer of your father, Miss Bromsby, and I will provide irrefutable proof of their guilt.
Well, good afternoon, gentlemen. You made the right choice to leave London. It is unbearably foggy. But Lavinia, darling, what's going on?
She knows.
But how? I mean, what? What does she know? I don't understand. Whatever do you mean?
Oh no, you understand me clearly, Mr. Harrington, and you also, Spencer. Or should I say, Mr. Jeffries?
Explain yourself, Mr. Holmes. What a monstrous misunderstanding.
Oh, I've just explained myself to Miss Bromsby about the truth of her father's murder, but I can tell the story again from the very beginning. It begins several years ago. Wyatt Collins, the nephew of Mr. Bromsby, is forced by his uncle to leave England for South America. His hatred is fostered by the ingratitude he perceives in Sir Bromsby. Wasn't his uncle's career financed by his mother's money? In Collins' mind, Melvyn Bromsby owes him an eternal debt of gratitude, and was thus obliged to finance Collins' indolent lifestyle, fulfilling his every need. Here is our first criminal, Wyatt Collins. Then we have you, Mr. Harrington. You were a brilliant student at the military academy, and are an excellent shot, are you not? You were the only person at the reception with sufficient skills to make the shot that took Sir Bromsby's life. During my investigation, I learned that ex-officers of Her Majesty's Army enjoy great favour around the world for administrative positions. You left India and made your way to Brazil, where you obtained a position as warden of the prison in Guacamayamo. Do not try to deny your presence there. The pictures in your hunting portfolio could have been taken nowhere else in the world except Guacamayamo. We now have our second criminal, Lieutenant Harrington. Mr. Jeffries, your arrival in Guacamayamo set things in motion. The theatre company had come to Brazil as part of their worldwide tour. You had been involved with the lovely Veronica Davenport, and loved her with a passionate yet possessive love. However, Miss Davenport did not share your affections. She had in fact tried several times to end your affair prior to the company's arrival in Guacamayamo. It seems she was truly devoted to Dwight Richards, and would never leave him. After you arrived, you frequented the town's bawdier spots. This is where you first met Mr. Harrington, and you quickly became close companions. It seems tedium and heartbreak do bring certain people together. After the performance, maddened by alcohol and grief, you killed Miss Davenport because she had rejected your love. You then fled to your newfound friend, the warden, to confess your crime and beg for his help. In a show of friendship, he helped dispose of her corpse and directed suspicions towards your rival, Dwight Richards. Afterwards, you lay low, leaving the others to believe that you had been killed or had gone missing. You stayed hidden until they had departed, and you must have kept Miss Davenport's earring as some morbid souvenir. No doubt you also retained not only the key to the Fairfax Theatre, but the keys from Aston's, where you had been employed several years earlier. Here, then, is our third felon, Mr. Jeffries. Life was difficult in Brazil for our trio. Mr. Jeffries rarely went out, Mr. Harrington's men were talking behind his back, and Mr. Collins' funds were inadequate. One evening, Collins spoke of his cousin, who, in a few months' time, was to return to England from finishing school. She was also the sole heir to one of the greatest fortunes in England. Imagine these three men besotted with alcohol, considering the wealth that would one day pass to this slip of a girl. A terrible plan was devised. Several days later, they left for England, false papers for two of their party in hand, resolved to seize a portion, if not all, of this great inheritance.
Incredible!
Yes, incredible, and horribly true. At first, their plan was to forge a duplicate will or destroy the original, so that Mr. Collins would receive a share of the estate. This would happen soon enough, as they would murder Sir Bromsby at his daughter's birthday reception. It was essential that Collins enter the country under false papers, so that neither his uncle nor the authorities would be alerted to his presence in England. This would avoid any suspicion attaching him for his uncle's death when he arrived to claim his inheritance. They quickly put their plans into effect. Mr. Jeffries arrived at the household in the guise of a stylish French head waiter and studied the lay of the manor, Mr. Harrington, the assassin, would accompany a person with rather poor eyesight to the reception so that the illusion of the fake Mr. Harrington would go unchallenged. As the head waiter, Jeffries was in a unique position to study the guest list. He quickly learned that two of the guests, Miss Rowntree and Colonel Patterson, had both poor eyesight and were unaccompanied. Lieutenant Harrington was quite busy in the days before the reception. He courted Miss Rowntree with great dedication and made fast friends with the Colonel. He hoped to secure one, if not two, invitations to the reception. Your arrival as the Colonel's guest was your first error, Harrington. Is it credible that a young officer who left the army because of his hatred towards all military authority would easily befriend a man who embodies everything that he detests? But your efforts bore fruit, and you obtained your invitation. Mr. Jeffries, as head waiter, took great care that the tables and tablecloths were arranged specifically to accommodate their schemes. Mr. Jeffries then secured the disguise for his role as the false Lieutenant Harrington. He remembered that an officer's uniform, similar to Lieutenant Harrington's, and a red wig, identical to the colouring of the lieutenant's hair, were in storage at the Fairfax Theatre. He learned that the company had taken up residence at the site of the old Aston Theatre, for which he still had the key. It was therefore a simple matter for him to acquire these items for his masquerade. They now only lacked the will, which Mr. Collins presumed was kept at Flowlet's house. Their plan was to take these papers prior to the murder of Sir Bromsby, so that Flowlet would be unaware of either their presence or a substitution until it was too late. But things went badly. Mr. Jeffries tried to divert Mr. Flowlet, but he must have been alerted by some noise, as Collins struggled vainly to open the safe. Upon being discovered, Collins killed Flowlet on the spot. The two conspirators then left the house in such a way that witnesses believed it was Flowlet himself who had left. They would now have to find another way to get hold of the money, because no doubt Sir Bromsby had disinherited Collins in favour of his daughter. They decided to take the money from his daughter, a young, naive and vulnerable young woman. On the day of reception, Mr. Harrington arrived with Jeffries, disguised as his servant Spencer and the Colonel. With the promise of whiskey, Jeffries easily secured the unwitting aid of two fellow servants and assumed a position at the service door. He wagered that he could pinch 2 or 3 good bottles of liquor from the kitchen if his companions would cover for him. I have just explained what happened next. After the shooting, he took 2 bottles of excellent whiskey. Only someone knowledgeable would have taken these 2 bottles over the others, and Mr. Jeffries had been formerly employed at a luxurious hotel in France. Upon his return, he gave an accounting to his fellow servants, did his hair, and left the manor. The promised delivery of the liquor and his frightened look secured the 2 men's cooperation in providing his alibi. They could not have known his true role in these events. The one problem for the conspirators was the barman Simon Hunter. He had perfect eyesight, unlike the Colonel, and realized that the man who claimed to be near the bar at the time of the murder had in fact lied. He hinted as much to Mr. Harrington and most certainly intended blackmail. As they were short on funds, the accomplices gave him Miss Davenport's earring as collateral and pledged to return with the money he demanded. That night, when Lieutenant Harrington visited us in London, he had just come from Simon Hunter's. Hunter had told Harrington that the earring had been pawned and he would not reveal the name of the shop unless Harrington paid him his money. Mr. Harrington ruthlessly killed Hunter, and the earring so precious to Mr. Jeffries was lost. Earlier that morning, Jeffries lured Collins to the cement factory on the pretext of fabricating false evidence against Grimble. But they no longer needed Collins to acquire the Bromsby fortune. Mr. Harrington would wed the young heiress, then, after a reasonable time, they would cause her untimely death, and they would take it all. So Mr. Jeffries murdered Collins and made sure his body was barely recognizable. If he was identified, it would not affect their plans, as they believed leaving the corpse at the cement factory would direct suspicion towards Grimble. When Mr. Harrington came to see us, he learned we were hot on Collins' trail and had traced his movements up to the factory. He assumed we would go there within the hour and left to quickly round up his associates and devise a plan. Jeffries, from his days at the Fairfax Theatre, knew an Asian of questionable talents who had no visible ties with this case and could attack us without drawing suspicion their way. We avoided this attack, and from that moment I was convinced of Lieutenant Harrington's involvement in the conspiracy. The last elements of proof were revealed at the vagrants' camp near the monastery outside of London. Mr. Jeffries had tramped through England in his past and might have thought to hide Collins in the forest near the Richmond's Abbey. The very day that I was there, he tried to destroy all evidence of Collins' murder. Fortunately, he did not manage to destroy everything. It seems Collins, foreseeing his possible death, left a small surprise for his accomplices. It would be easily missed, except by someone who observes all and misses nothing.
But this is merely some draft to lull us to sleep, Mr. Holmes. Lavinia, surely you can't believe these mad accusations? They arise from nothing. What proof do you offer for what you say? None.
Believe what you will, Mr. Harrington. I will warn you that Mr. Collins left a letter written in his own hand, which named yourself and Mr. Jeffries and accused you both of complicity in the murder of his uncle. At this very moment, Inspector Lestrade's men are conducting a search of your rooms. They will find the evidence that, when added to the accusations within this letter, will prove your guilt beyond all doubt. The Chirapaqui cigarettes, your portfolio, as well as a feather from the pillow which was taken from Horace Fowlett's. These items prove my deductions. I suggest we wait here for their arrival with these proofs, and I assure you our wait will be brief.
Bravo, Mr. Holmes. Well done. Accept my apologies, my dear Lavinia. I think under the circumstances it would be best if we postponed our engagement. I'm sorry for your father, but what do you expect? We had to give it our best shot.
Where is the earring now? You will tell me, where is it? Unless you tell me at once where the earring is, no one will leave this room alive. Don't you understand? You are all going to die.
They are all yours, Lestrade. I suggest you return with your agents to London as soon as possible. Thank you, Mr. Grimble, for literally applying my precepts. Watson, let us escort Miss Bromsby to her rooms. She will need her rest.
Holmes, Collins never named either Harrington or Jeffries in his letter.
Indeed, Watson, but they could not have known. I played my bluff, and they believed me.
And Grimble, where did he appear from?
You can now boast that one of the most influential men in England served as your driver. Since my visit to Fowlett's, I knew that Grimble had nothing to do with this crime. I asked him to assist with the investigation, and it was at my request that he took steps to acquire Bromsby Enterprises. He gained us precious time by forcing Harrington and Jeffries to wait and see if Miss Bromsby would inherit. He ran quite a risk in doing me this favour, because their plots then turned against him. I also asked him to send the letter which lured the two murderers away from the hall. I needed a moment to explain everything to Miss Lavinia. It would be dreadful if she fell into the hands of her father's killer. From the beginning, Grimble was concerned only with saving her inheritance. He never once doubted her innocence.
Nevertheless, didn't he misappropriate those funds?
Indeed, but not for his own profit. It was solely to protect his friend Bromsby. An ex-architect with whom he had quarrelled, a Mr. Waters, had contacted Sir Bromsby before this intrigue began. Waters learned from Captain Bowie that Sir Bromsby had encouraged certain actions against workers hired to build a bridge in India. That project was the bridge over the Kalidasa Abyss. Waters blackmailed Bromsby from afar. Grimble received the letters and considered them to be quite serious. He knew his hot-tempered friend well and preferred to conceal the blackmail attempt for fear of disastrous consequences. So Grimble made regular payments to Waters in exchange for his silence. Unfortunately, Collins discovered the arrangement while he was working at the cement factory and threatened to reveal everything. Grimble could not afford for that to occur. He managed to rid himself of Collins by sending him to Fowlett. Then it was Bromsby's turn to discover the blackmail by sheer accident. He was angered, but before he could decide his next move, Mr. Waters died suddenly and removed all threat. When Grimble learned that Waters had died, he confessed all to Bromsby. He noted that the money paid was a pittance when measured against Bromsby enterprises, and that the same amount could now be applied in other ways. India had enriched them so greatly, and Bromsby had been cursed over the harm done to the Indian people in his employment. It was decided that these same funds would now be sent on a monthly basis to a Bombay orphanage in the care of a Sergeant Brahmai. It is possible that Bromsby intended to increase his patronage, and this was the important news he intended to reveal to the press at his daughter's reception. It was she who had harshly reproached him regarding his behavior towards the Indians in his employ. Do you remember the words from that poem which he had written into his notes? It said that the ungrateful always die miserably.
Indeed, Holmes. But there is one thing that I still don't understand. Why did you ask Lestrade to put Richards behind bars? He wasn't guilty of any crime, but you treated him as a murderer.
I advised Lestrade that it would be prudent to place Richards in custody so we could protect him from harm. Mr. Richards is a wise and intelligent man. He would have recognized Harrington and Jeffries on sight. When he realized that Jeffries was alive and that I possessed the missing earring, he would have drawn the same conclusions as I. So this investigation would have been stopped cold by one or two more murders.
I see.
Well, Watson, you seem to know everything. Tell me, please, that small missive which I can see on the desk. It contains 2 invitations to the opera's opening night, does it not? If so, we shall finally have our opportunity to hear this marvellous soprano. Well, what do you say, Watson?
And that was the case of the silver earring. It's not the most well-presented story, but I can appreciate Frogwares' efforts in creating a game that makes it possible for the theorizers to theorize and see if they can solve the mystery for themselves, since we have access to all the evidence, and the questionnaires are very useful hints for people who are trying to figure out what information truly matters. There are only 2 things about the story that are kinda First is that there's no mention of the Italian singer we were supposed to investigate after the initial cutscene. Like, what about her? Wasn't she supposed to be at Lavinia's birthday party? Second is that we don't really get an explanation as to why Bromsby gave Lavinia a gun, and hinted at a more serious reason than just some pepper spray for my beautiful daughter. Like, he seemed to believe that they were in actual, real, tangible danger, but then that's never brought up again. Graphics-wise, this game is from 2004. For the time, this is very passable. It's completely fine. It's weird because there are some really cool details, like being able to see the razor burn on Jeffrey's face, but then there's everything else. And atmosphere? Nope, never heard of it. The Holmes characterization is pretty good. Him explaining why he kissed her hand in the end was a really nice touch. So yeah, excluding a few hiccups I mentioned over the course of the game, the characters from the canon are very well represented. And yeah, this game is really buggy, but hey, it's Frogwares. Overall, this was a ginormous glow up from the mystery of the mummy, so I'm actually cautiously optimistic for our next game, The Awakened Remastered.